Today on a special Rambling About Cars, you want power? We've got a gorgeous Porsche 911 from Singer on tap. We've got the Audi RS6 Avant Performance. We've got the last Mercedes V8 G-Class with a catch there. And we're giving a Motor One coworker one last ride on the podcast. So let's roll. It's podcast time. I am Christopher Smith. You know Mr. Chris Bruce across the way, and we do have a very special guest with us this evening.
I'm not that special. I'm not.
You are. So we have Motor1.com managing editor Brandon Turkus with us tonight, and Brandon's going to be leaving the Motor One family. We can't necessarily say where he's going, but he's going to be leaving us, and so we wanted to give him one last round on the show
before he's dead to us. So
before he's dead to us.
The great thing is all the times you guys have fired me, it's finally come true. No, I'm not getting fired. I'm leaving my own volition. It's very exciting.
I never fired you. Oh, wait, maybe I think I probably did.
I do not fire people. I do not have the seniority to fire people, even though I think I technically started like 2 weeks before you, Brandon. But you're still my boss.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're going to have one hell of a great show here because we have a lot of powerful vehicles to talk about. We're going to give everybody a minute or two here to jump on board. Where can you jump on board? We're Motor1.com on Facebook, Motor1.com Twitter, Motor One on YouTube. You can go there right now live, which if you're listening, you're probably there right now live, but you can jump into the comments, type in comments wherever you're at there. They come to our little feed that you can't see, but we can see right here on our screens, and we can see what you're saying. So Group FBC, thanks for coming on board again. Always nice to see you. Jonathan Brown, thanks for being here. David Classes Raff, I love the name. Hello to you wherever you're from. We love having you here.
Yeah. And Brandon, since we've been doing the live show, since this is the first time you've been with us since we're live, we talk a little bit about just general personal car stuff before we actually get to the show. And that just lets people kind of come into the room and join us. So,
I mean, I think we've got a hard start time. Like, come on, people, like this is like school class. You're tardy.
This is Rambling About Cars. We're like the
like
Breakfast
Ted Adam
Club,
Green
man.
here says. We ramble. You gotta ease into a ramble. You don't just start rambling.
The kids, man, they changed. They haven't changed. You have, man.
But any interesting car stories, quick stuff that you would want to share with us, like just for your personal life, whether it's your personal cars or something really cool you saw, or something you bought, or just whatever.
It's funny. I don't drive my personal car. I was just in, I can't really say much more than this. I was just in Napa. I got home yesterday. I was driving the new Rolls-Royce Spectre, which is I can't say anything about, but it's a Rolls-Royce. So
wait.
So can we comment on the
so
color?
when you hold on just a moment. So when you say you were at Napa, you weren't at Napa Auto Parts.
No, I was in Napa Valley. Napa Valley.
It's like, I was in Napa, with my Rolls Royce. Yeah, I wanted to pick up some pinstriping. I know, maybe one of those little fuzzy air fresheners that hangs from the mirror. No, you were in Napa Valley, California.
I was in Napa Valley, California.
Am I allowed to show the color of the car you drove? Is that okay?
If it's from my Instagram, it probably needs to be censored because
this will be from former Motor Oneers and Steve Ewing. So
yes, then in that case, yes.
Okay. Throw Steve under the bus.
No, but I just wanted to make sure
the color is a choice. So let me break it down for everybody that doesn't know how it runs. When you're on a drive program, your first job is to get out and select a car. This usually comes after a briefing, and there's always a mad rush to like go out and get a car, and you want one that has the options that you want, the configuration, and all that stuff. But when it's a Rolls Royce, the important thing is getting one that looks cool. Now, after our briefing before the drive, I made the mistake of going to the bathroom and trusting Steve to go out and pick the car. And instead of there was this beautiful like emerald green with like a black two-tone job and this brilliant white one with a blue body that someone looks like the LA Dodgers car. And Steve selected this, which I can only describe as something that looks like an old lady smells.
Okay. I was gonna say an old lady's bathroom, but yeah.
I mean that looks like what I did in second grade with the watercolors when I accidentally spilled the watercolor and it's just like all kind of one gradient all the way across.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of, I mean, what is that? Like a really
you would call it
Morganite. We
say that again. I was talking over you.
Sorry, the color is called Morganite, and we kind of figured that it's like a mauve. If you know the color mauve, it's like that.
It's looks oh gosh, what's the
of all the colors that were there, it was definitely one of them.
it looks like Barney the dinosaur, like Monday morning after a weekend bender, and he's really pale.
Yeah.
From drinking too much. That's it's a thing. But we're not actually talking about Rolls-Royce. You're going to see that later on Motor1.com.
Monday at 7:00.
Monday, 7:00. Brandon was on that drive. You're going to read all about it. Did you do some video too? No video. But you're going to see it and you're going to read all about it.
I guarantee the color of the car in the galleries will be much more attractive than that.
Nice.
Well,
but what do we have to talk about today, Bruce?
Well, I think so. We started with a car that is clearly in an eye-catching color. Call it coral, call it Morganite, call it mauve. But let's talk about another brightly colored car, and that is the new Singer. I'm pulling it up here right now. If you could vamp for me for just a hot
See,
second.
I see that as orange. Maybe it's just my monitor.
Orange.
It is ferociously orange.
It is. It is very, very orange, and that's actually, I mean, in their press release, they're describing the two. They're describing the two cars.
That one's not. That's yeah.
So let me tell everybody a little bit about what we're seeing here, and once again, if you're listening to us on audio, we're on Spotify, Apple, Google, all of the audio streaming platforms. You can go to Motor1.com, see the articles that we have talking about the cars here. You can go to Motor1.com on YouTube to see Rambling About Cars, to see what we're talking about. This is the latest creation from Singer. For those who don't know, Singer, the company, they restore and reimagine Porsche 911s. They focus primarily on the 964, the air-cooled 911. This is their latest project called the Dynamics and Lightweighting Study Turbo. DLS Turbo. It's a 964 that fuses the 934/5 race car. What is that, you say? That's the awesome Porsche race car based on the 930 from the late 70s with the big wing in the back. It didn't have the slant nose in the front. It still had the oval lights in the front. It basically dominated SECA Trans Am series when it was out racing, and they built one
for anyone
the
watching. I threw up a picture of the real thing. That is a real 934/5, and then I'll switch back to.
And obviously,
Singer's ode to the 934/5,
and I mean it's Singer, so I mean it's freaking fantastic. Just the way they put it all together, melded it with the 964. They take these cars down to just the bare chassis. They actually reinforce the chassis to make sure it can withstand everything that they're going to do to it. And by the way, this has a 3.8 liter twin turbocharged flat six that makes somewhere over 700 horsepower. They just say over 700 horsepower. It's just, it revs over 9,000 RPM. Fantastic engine.
Crazy for an engine that size.
And that DLS, the engine used in the DLS is still done by Singer. I know, I think it was a year or so ago. There was the report that came out that, okay, Porsche is going to be doing some engine work for Singer. That doesn't apply to this car. That doesn't apply to the DLS engines, those high revving 3.8 liters. So still the Singer work done on that. Obviously, it's got the really, really wide treatment on the back. It's got the wide wheels and tires. It's got the big wide wing on the back. It's got the huge splitter in front. What else we got here? 19-inch front wheels, 20-inch rears. Yes, you can. Absolutely.
So frequent watcher, visitor, commenter, group at FBC said, missed the opportunity for turbofan wheels. And I zoomed in on this specifically. And if you look around the rim there actually are little turbofans as part of the rim. Now, whether they're actually functional turbofans, I don't know, but they did do that nice little touch.
They got a little touch there.
Chris, if you pull up the original 934, it's pretty clear. Like it's pretty clear that they drew a lot of inspiration from those wheels in designing these.
Oh, definitely.
So I mean, yeah, I agree. Like a missed opportunity for the turbofan, but like Singer is so fanatical about like researching these things and paying homage in the right way. Yeah, I think it's just another example of that.
And those are center lock wheels too, which I think is a pretty neat touch. But for those who say, that is cool, but man, it's kind of wild, they actually have 2 versions available. The really wild one is obviously based more on the 935. That was the car that actually won Le Mans in 1979 with the big wing that had the slant nose without the regular headlights. The 934 was the milder Group 4 car. That's what we're looking at here right now, the one colored in gold. It doesn't have the big wing on the back. It has a milder front splitter, the orange DLS that has a much more aggressive front splitter. And Singer actually designed this car to have it be interchangeable between the big rear wing and the big backside and the bigger splitter up front. So you can buy one car. And Singer, we actually had a chance to chat with them a little bit on email. They actually explained that was really the hardest part of creating this car, was setting it up to where it could be easily interchangeable or relatively easily interchangeable with the more aggressive front splitter, the more aggressive rear wing. So either flavor you want, wild or wilder, they can do it. And since they do these basically per customer request, there's no pricing because you can't really price it. It's basically whatever the customer wants. And Singer did tell us that as much as they would just love to do these on their own, they generally wait until they have specific requests from customers for something, and it's something that they just absolutely want to do themselves. And I mean, we were talking a little bit about this, guys, in our team's chat. The interior is just phenomenal as well. I mean, it looks great on the outside. I think the interior is just phenomenal. Completely analog car. That's a 6-speed manual driving the rear wheels. So another masterpiece from Singer.
I'm gonna show you something. I'm gonna ruin this car for you.
Okay.
So can you go to a straight on rear view?
Straight on rear view. Yes, I can.
I know what you're talking about because it looks kind of
right there.
It looks kind of weird.
Well, it looks, and I'm going to tell you what it reminds me of: the BMW i8. If you look at the rear view, if you look at the rear view of a BMW i8, it looks like a BMW swallowing a Porsche. Now, this does not look like a BMW swallowing a Porsche, but it looks like something else swallowing a Porsche.
I mean, I know you're trying to ruin it for me, but you're just not.
I mean, I'm gonna share a link with you, Chris.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it! This image is so tiny.
I mean, it's. I see what you're saying.
Miersma with us today as well.
It looks a little weird. Oh, no, we've got Brandon's boss with us joining on the podcast here in the comments. Singer doing the best interiors in the biz. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's the best interior in the biz. We see a lot of good interiors.
They do
But
some of their
yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
No, I just say some of their earlier models where they have the woven leather upholstery, I think is the most gorgeous interior you can imagine. Just like the amount of work that goes into woven leather is amazing, and the fact that you do entire interiors in that is
All right, Chris. I just gave you a link to a rear view of an i8.
Okie doke. Oh, I do kind of see it.
See?
All right.
See? The blue
bit.
Here
it comes, folks.
No, I mean, I know.
911.
We
yeah, he's kind of got a point.
We don't need to see that. We don't need to see it. Honestly, I'm still. I mean, I see it, but I don't see it. I still love the Singer. I still love the Singer. And yeah, back on the interiors, so many times with various custom companies. I won't say they maybe think secondly on the interior, but I feel like Singer, they fuss over the interior just as much as they do everything else, and they fuss over everything.
Sure,
and it shows in pretty much every one I've ever seen.
the craftsmanship on Singers is just second to none. I'm not sure there's any company in the business that's doing the fanatical devotion to craftsmanship and detail that Singer does. But it is also something else swallowing a 911.
Yeah, that's okay. Swallow away.
Maybe I'm okay with that. Maybe that's okay in this case. Like, I see what you're saying, but I do agree that the rear view is maybe the most awkward perspective of this car.
I'd have some concerns about driving it too, because you drive pretty much any normal car that someone would drive. The widest part of the car, like the widest section from side to side, are the door mirrors.
Usually,
and this very clearly, the rear fenders are wider than the door mirrors.
Yes, they are.
So yeah, I think it's beautiful. Actually, no, I don't think it's beautiful. I think it's very well done. But I have some issues. I like Singer's earlier work, honestly. If I'm going to sound like a purist, the original 911s that Singer did were.
But if we look at them, every one of their builds is a bit different. So the previous turbo we saw before this was essentially someone did a 930 turbo convertible, as close to what a 930 turbo convertible looked like in the 80s, and I think that's fantastic. It's they work with their customers, and it seems like their customers have either very good taste, or Singer is very good at pushing their customers into what ends up being very good taste.
I'd be very curious if I were to win the lottery and I were to go to Singer and be like, I want to build the ugliest car possible. Could you make that a reality? I have millions of dollars. Please help me build the ugliest Porsche in the history of Porsches.
I mean,
you're leaving me kind of speechless here. That's why.
I've got enough money for a Singer. I want to see what I can do with it.
I mean, that's fair. But real quick, I do want to show
chaotic evil, Chris. Chaotic evil.
Okay, this was the last car we saw before this most recent one, and that is, it's not clearly identical to an 80s 930 convertible, but
that is the only good-looking convertible Porsche I've ever seen. Convertible 911 I've ever seen.
Well, you're wrong, but that's okay.
No, because I mean the takes are hot.
See, this is what you guys get by bringing me on.
I love having you on.
For the record, it's Oberon, Seth.
It's Oberon. No, Bell's Oberon. Okay.
The convertible is the worst version of the 911, and it doesn't matter the generation.
I've always disagreed with you on that point, and I'll continue to.
Okay, that's fine. It's okay to be wrong.
Oh, yeah. Seth, I like 911 Targas, and Seth thinks they're pointless, and I know he's listening right now, and I bet he's shaking his head. But
Targas
know what?
Are fantastic.
I'm hosting this show.
Why would you buy a 911 convertible when you could get a Targa? That's what I don't understand.
Well, if I'm a millionaire, I'm buying both. Duh.
It's true.
Because they're both amazing. You guys are just weird tonight, man.
I'm not.
It's still early. I'm only drinking water right now.
Oh boy. But that's the Singer 911, folks. Sorry, that is the Porsche 911 restored and reimagined by Singer. We want to make that abundantly clear. These are still Porsche 911s that Singer puts an incredible amount of work and detail into. At the end of the day, they are still a Porsche 911, redesigned, reimagined, restored by Singer.
Yep. And I want to shout out Group of FBC here. I'm with Brandon. The clean, quote unquote, as he puts it in quotes, Singers are just, I think he means exceptional. The original DLS is stunning in every respect. And Brandon, I'll let you know, Group of FBC is from Australia. I believe he's told us that he watches this show.
Oh, you did not just
for him at 9:30 a.m. So
Turkus,
that's a great start to the day. That is a
do not say shrimp on the barbie. Dude, just don't say it.
Dingo got my baby.
Oh my! Okay,
I don't think you can do that.
Okay, send your hate mail to brandon.turkus@motor1.com.
I wish I could remember it. The only Singer I've ever seen in person was at the Goodwood Festival of Speed back in probably 2000.
That's not true,
maybe?
Brandon. You and I were at a Monterey Car Week and saw a few Singers. At least one.
We were?
Yeah. We saw at least one. There was at least one there. I know this. Oh, and they're
there was a lot of champagne that weekend. No, but I saw one at Goodwood, and it was gobsmackingly beautiful. I mean, the original 911s that Singer does are just on another level.
Mm-hmm.
But well, we have more than Singer to talk about here tonight. Although we will get back to some interesting and fun Porsche stuff later on.
Yes.
So kind of keep this whole 911 thing in the backs of your minds. But right now, what do we want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the V8?
No, I don't. I think we should do the Audi next. You want
to go to Audi?
Well, open here. And...
Well, let's go to Audi because those of us in the United States, we're finally getting the RS6, RS7 Performance.
Yep.
Bruce, why don't you tell us a little bit about this? Because it's kind of a big deal.
This was a vehicle that was announced for Europe last November. Mm-hmm. And until this past week, we didn't know whether it was coming to the United States or not. And now we know for certain. So you will not be able to get the regular RS6 or RS7 in the United States for the 2024 model year. Instead, you get the RS6 Avant Performance or RS7 Avant Performance. Yay. And it's a pretty healthy upgrade. So still you have the twin turbo 4-liter V8. Now it makes 621 horsepower, 627 pound-feet of torque. And just to put that into perspective, the previous version, so if you would about last year's RS6 Avant, that version made 591 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. So you're roughly up 30 horsepower, which is pretty nice.
The fun thing is, if you go to motor1.com right now, you can read a review of the RS6 Performance from our own Mr. Jeffrey Perez.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can. Yep, our stories went up at the same time. Both the pricing post and then his review of it went up simultaneously. So
he was also in Napa, not Napa Auto Parts, but Napa Valley last week driving it.
So with
what's going on in Napa last week?
Yeah. So with the power
automakers
upgrade,
love Napa.
I think they do, honestly. Because I think it's kind of I think secretly it's the wine. And the roads are good and the wine is good. And I think the intersection, it kind of works out.
No comment.
Okay. Dead air. I mean, okay.
Napa is great for drive programs. It's near the PCH. There's some everybody that all of my friends that criticize me for these travels are like, you're just going on these are just vacations, and they're not. They're really hard work, but they think that we love to stay in these nice hotels. No, it's the PR people that love to stay in the nice hotels.
Right. They're the ones setting it up.
They're the ones staying there for like 2 weeks at a time. Yeah, we had nothing to do with it. But no, Napa's a great place for testing cars. I've probably been there more than anywhere else in this job.
I haven't been to many places in the auto world here, but I have been there, and I would agree. I mean, you can kind of get out away from things a little bit if you need to. Nice setting. But to kind of keep it maybe a little related here to RS6.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't it look kind of evil for this neck of the woods? I mean, am I the only one that thinks this car? I mean it in the best possible way. The RS6 Avant just looks just evil. And I mean, we have photos of it just completely in black, and it's still just it ticks. If you did Dingoes Eat My Baby, I'm doing Darth Vader RS6. Because if Darth Vader drove a wagon, and he did have 2 kids, mind you, the RS6 Avant would have been it.
Yeah, but he was an absentee father. But no, this looks fantastic. Talking to Jeff about it, one of the things that he said was really interesting. The difference between the standard suspension and the higher performance. I want to say it was a higher performance air suspension. I have his review right here. I should have probably brushed up on that. But the way he was talking, it really changed. The suspension choice really has a outsized effect on the way the RS6 and the RS7 drive. And I appreciate that from in a vehicle like this, because not everybody that buys one of these is going to want the crazy hardcore thing that the people listening to this podcast might want. They might just want a cool looking fast car that is very comfortable. So the fact that Audi can do a version of this called the Performance and give it that kind of dual personality is really impressive.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was thinking something along those lines earlier. Just as we were rolling up to the podcast, I remember when Audi said, "Hey, the RS6 Avant, we're going to sell it in the United States." And it's like, wow, they're bringing a wagon into a place where nobody wants to buy wagons, and it's a super expensive, super powerful wagon to boot. And I think that's a red herring. Audi is bringing an impressive, comfortable performance car to this market. Doesn't matter if it's a wagon or not. It just the stats are there. It just happens to have a longer roof than some of the other vehicles, right?
I would also point out the RS7 is coming here too. So if you say,
and the RS7 is
wagons are boring, which you're wrong, but still, if that's the way you feel, the RS7 Performance exists. It has exactly the same engine, it has exactly the same output. You know, so you can do that. You can go that route too. Brandon, please.
So I think the timing that the RS6 arrived was really interesting. It came at a time originally when, you know, the Audi R8 has always kind of been the halo car for the brand, and the R8 the writing's been on the wall for quite a while now that it was going to go away. And I think there was some intention within Audi to bring this over as a sort of a halo car, a sort of a statement maker that we're European and we're doing things a little bit differently. And here's this really cool thing. And I reference this every time the RS6 comes up. Audi put out, it was like a 5-minute video, like a glorified, beautifully shot commercial of all of the RS wagons. And it was like their announcement, like saying this was coming here. And it was one of those things that, like, if you cannot watch it without you know, getting a tear in your eye, because it's so beautifully done. And it really showed, you know, what the Avant performance models mean to Audi fans. So I think there was some intention on Audi's part to kind of make this a little bit of a halo product at a time when the R8 was kind of on its way out.
Yeah,
I like that idea a lot.
So I want to throw out a couple of things. You're talking about how this is a halo model. Well, it has a halo price. RS6 Avant Performance in the United States, after the destination fee, $126,895. If you want the RS7 Performance, it's $2,000 more, $128,895. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a halo vehicle, but gosh, 0 to 60 in what, 3.2 seconds?
3.3.
3.3. Oh, darn.
Have you guys played around with the configurator yet? Is that like fully loaded, like, are other options or anything like that?
I haven't had a chance to jump into the configurator yet.
Well, I'm just thinking about you know, how much the E63 wagon cost, because that was not a cheap car, but I don't think the RS6 the performance model is that much more expensive, honestly.
Oh no, yeah, I don't think it is either. But versus an E63 or E63 Touring, I guess they call it. Yeah,
E63 wagon. I mean, this was in 2021, and it was $112,000 to start.
Sure.
So you load up some options, it's going to be up the same as this is now.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm still taking the Audi. I just this vehicle, for whatever reason, just checks every box that I have. And listeners, ramblers out there know I'm not a fan of big grills. I'm a fan of this one.
And I should say, they're also, let's say you want to be really, really special, and we do not have prices for these two models yet. There is also going to be the bronze edition of the RS6 and RS7 Performance.
That'll look real good.
Mm-hmm.
So they're only bringing 75 examples of the wagon to the US, 50 examples to of the sedan. Contrary to their name, the color of the body color is not bronze. They all come in Sebring black crystal effects.
And Seth thought I was drinking the scotch over there talking about the Sebring.
But they do have bronze wheels. And they also come standard with the sport exhaust, Bang & Olufsen stereo, and a microfiber Dynamica headliner. So, going to be rare, very, very few of them. But like, if you want to be, you want to have the rarest of the rare, 75 wagons and then 50 sedans.
Put me down for 2.
Yeah, one of each.
One of each to go with my my 911 convertible and Targa.
That's right. What seems like we're good with that. Let's move on to the Mercedes G500 V8 Final Edition. There's some caveats with that
Yes.
we have to discuss because this
Yes.
is not the final G-Class, not by any stretch of the imagination. The G-Class is not going anywhere.
And it's not even going to be the final V8 per se, because we still have AMG models. And it's important to point out the G500 is the model sold in Europe. In North America, it's the G550 with V8. And there's been no word from Mercedes yet on what's going on there with the G550.
I'm pretty sure that's just a branding thing. I could be talking out of my butt, but I'm pretty sure that's just a branding thing where they're the same model. But
sure, but
yeah,
still, apparently in Europe they're going to be getting a 6-cylinder model very soon. That is going to replace the V8 model, but we do not have any of those details for the United States yet. So
I'm going to go into speculation mode. I think that's absolutely going to be the case here, and moreover, I think that if you look at what Mercedes-Benz is doing with the Mercedes-AMG has been doing with the C63 and the S63 and eventually the E63,
right,
where they're moving to smaller displacement, plug-in powertrains. I think a future G63 is probably going to mimic the S63 with so it'll still have a V8, but it'll be complemented by an electric motor and batteries and plugs and all that stuff, based just on their current strategy right now. So I don't think the V8 is going away fully, but yeah, in the regular non-AMG one.
Right.
I think it's a sign of things to come. Like, we know they've shown us that the EQG is coming, which is going to be the electric G-Class.
So cool.
At some point, I think it's safe down the line to say that combustion power is going to be gone from these vehicles. It's not happening yet, but maybe this is the first domino to fall to show, we're moving in that direction.
So I do wonder, like, how much the actual G-Wagon customer is going to care so much that if the V8 goes away from the mainline model, because these vehicles are about so much more than the powertrain. They're about the statement-making looks. They're about the way that it sounds like you're opening, like breaking open the action on like a AK-47. I mean, this thing sounds like the coolest car you've ever encountered before you even start the engine. You lock the doors, you open the doors, anything you do is just mechanical and clunky and amazing. So I think there's a lot more to these things than just the engine. I don't think the customers will actually care that much if they go to an inline 6-cylinder or something like that.
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I know I was looking a little bit on some of Mercedes socials when they announced it. Of course, social media, the ultimate authority, but it's worth saying still. Reading all kinds of comments. No, don't get rid of the V8. Electric is terrible. Blah 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 blah. So, I mean, just take that as you will. Sort of the social comments, but for better or worse, this is going to be the final G500 V8. They're making 1,500 all total. 500 colored in obsidian black, opalith white magno, and olive magno. I don't know if I'm pronouncing those right. Odds are I'm probably not.
Magno is just a Mercedes name for matte. Yep. But I love that olive drab. That is a glorious color.
Yeah, that's the right color.
They should only be sold in that. I want it to look like a surplus German army vehicle. That's what I want my G-Wagon to look like.
Surplus German army vehicle with 20-inch AMG wheels, final edition lettering, dorsal trims, grab handles that say final edition.
I do find the grab handles kind of kitschy because they do the same thing with some of the press cars that we get where they're manufacturer, and it's just a sticker on the grab handle, and it's kind of like putting like a sticker on the Mona Lisa. It's just a little bit tacky.
I do like this touch, the G-Class logo on the door handle, on the push button for it. That's a cool touch. Like, it's something small. It's something a lot of people aren't going to notice, but people who like these cars are going to notice that. And that's a neat touch.
It is at that. It is at that.
We didn't mention powertrain, so obviously this is a European
yeah.
model. So we're talking European specs. It is the long-lived now the 4-liter V8, and I just scrolled away as I tapped on the wrong tab, so I can't tell you the power.
Twin turbo, 416 horsepower.
Thank you. Yep,
449 pound-feet of torque. It's unchanged from what you would normally get.
Exactly.
But it's
a great engine. It's a really fantastic engine.
The last of the V8 interceptors. I had to say it. Mad Max.
And that engine has been around for so long now that it's gotta be a decade, right?
Thereabouts, yeah. I remember driving like some of the last M156 engines, which was the old 6.2 liter V8 that was in so many things. And yeah, this 4-liter has been around in one form or another. Mercedes has done some interesting things with it. There were the EQ Boost models that were mild hybrids that were really, really fantastic. And it's interesting. I was on the drive program for the SL63 and the SL55, which was back in
the previous gen SL, right?
No, this is the current gen. This would have been December of 2021, I think.
Okay.
And so I was talking to them, and those cars, neither of them have EQ Boost, and their entire rationale behind it was basically that we're going to plugins, and it doesn't make sense for us to invest in engineering for EQ Boost anymore, because eventually we're just shifting everything to PHEVs, to the AMG E performance models. So yeah, I mean, but this engine, the 4-liter, has been in a lot of different cars in a lot of different forms, everything from the AMG GT to the S-Class to the G-Wagon to the C63. It's been in everything.
Basically everything. It has been, they have basically gotten their money out of that engine, because any performance model, it's gotten shoved in there at some point in the last decade or so.
And it's worth pointing out, I mean, we're talking about final edition. It'll still be around for a little while. Production of this starts in September and it goes through March of next year. So if you're among our audience across the pond, as they say, you've still got a little bit of time to go get your V8 G-Class.
So Smith, I'm curious, do we want to do emails now, or do we want to finish up the news and then do emails and then talk with Brandon about some of his favorite stuff?
News then emails. News then emails.
Cool.
Yeah, I like segments. We have
segments, procedures.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
let's talk about Porsche CEO Oliver Bloom spending the 24 hours at Le Mans sleeping on top of a Porsche.
Attaboy. Well done to
this goes back to our initiative we've started a little while ago, where it's like, hey, some things, sometimes it's not all about the new vehicles that have debuted. Sometimes it's all about just some of the little things that are happening, things that we're seeing people, readers at motor1.com interested in. And guess what? You're interested in Porsche's CEO sleeping on top of a 911 at Le Mans.
Also,
but he did at least
comment real quick. Damn, he's in good shape for a man his age. Like, he's looking good. He's looking fit, I gotta say.
I mean, it's
crickets,
the European lifestyle.
That's right.
I mean, we were all Americans. I'm just going to
for someone that's trying to lose weight. A little jealous. That's all I gotta say. And Smith, I'm proud of you for losing those 25
I was gonna
pounds.
say, Smith, you do look good. This is the first time I've seen you on camera in a minute.
I'm down 10, but I still got a ways to go.
Nice. I'm getting into summer where pulled pork is everywhere, and it's getting a little tougher. Not gonna lie, but I'm still sticking with it, doing my best. So not nearly as good as old Oliver here. Porsche shared this late last week. Of course, Le Mans. It's been over for a little bit. And at the race
before that, it was basically a week after Le Mans
right.
that they brought this up.
Porsche apparently has a nice little employee area where employees could go, hang out, enjoy their race weekend. And when you're the CEO of Porsche, why not grab a brand new 911 Turbo S with 640 horsepower? I'm just pulling it off of memory.
Right.
So something
right
about
around there.
something like that. And let's throw a tent on top of it, and we'll just sleep in the 911 Turbo S. And his wife came along for the event. They stayed in it for a couple days. Now, if you wanted to do this yourself, if you think that sounds awesome, I want to sleep on the roof of a 911 Turbo S that starts. What's the sticker? What's the
190
sticker on a 911 Turbo S? So somewhere around there.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Little shy of 200. So let's sleep on top of this near $200,000 0 to 60 in light speed sports car, and let's put a $7,000 tent on top of it, because Porsche does sell these tents. Porsche, I mean, obviously, and maybe I'm being a little silly here.
You are
911 Safaris have been around for a long time.
That would have been the real baller move, is if you took a 911 Dakar.
That's what I would have done. I mean, it's still a 911, but it seems to fit a little bit more. But hey, 911 Turbo S. If you want to do 180 with the tent on the roof, actually you can't, because Porsche says if you put their and did I write the price down here? $7,029 is the cost for the tent. It'll fit on the 911 or other Porsche products. It doesn't require a roof rack, but if you put it on there, because it's enclosed in its own little neat shell,
yep, your
top speed is reduced to 80 miles an hour.
That's probably for the best.
No.
Probably, definitely for the best.
It's probably for the best.
for anybody that's driven a car with something on the roof, which I have, you really, really notice it's on the roof when you start getting closer to triple digit speeds. Not that I've ever done that. Not that I would recommend anybody even get close to doing that. But yeah, it was a little interesting news item.
No, it's neat because you expect automotive CEOs to, sleep in, because there are some very VIP areas at Le Mans. I know that. And so you would expect him to sleep in something, much higher class than a rooftop tent. No,
I mean, there's some pretty wild CEOs. I mean, you've got this guy doing this. You've got Akio Toyota, who's run the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring. You got Jim Farley, who's racing like classic Ford GTs. Like, there's some pretty wild. The CEOs are not just being carried around in like cases marked fragile. Like, I think there are some of them that are like, they know their customer, and they know what they're doing. They know the image that they have to set, and doing a stunt like this, I mean, this is an easy thing that is also probably fun for him. It saves him from
for sure
having to get in and out of the track. He can probably just call and have a golf cart pick him up.
Sure.
Take him to the pits. Like, so, I mean, I think there was some, there's some clever work here on Porsche's part to make this happen. I'm sure he was probably down for it too. It's, I don't think any of us would say no to camping at Le Mans during the race.
God, no. I would love to. But no, and you're right. It's also a clever marketing move, because this is something like we were just showing in the other photos. Porsche actually offers this as an accessory. It's not like it's some weird one-off or something like that. This is something anybody can buy for their 911, and anyone can do it. And so it's a clever way of marketing a product that they have.
And I know there are at least a few folks on social media that and I've even followed some of them from time to time. Their social media is, hey, I'm road tripping and camping in my Porsche 911. And hey, when you can throw the tent out on the roof, obviously you're not climbing in the back to the kitchen to make yourself some dinner. But hey, we know for the last several years now, just getting out away from things for a little while has been big. It's neat that you can do it with a 911. Would he have been better served with the 911 Dakar? I don't know. Maybe not.
It would have been a neat touch. Like,
yes,
it's cool regardless. But the Dakar would have just added that little like Suzanne
in a martini livery, naturally.
We talked about liveries today, and
we're not doing it. I was too busy to jump into that discussion, but I had some Gulf liveries all ready to go. I just want to say.
Okay.
But yeah, Porsche camping in your Porsche 911. If you Rambler out there listening, if you are thinking, hey, I want to go for a camping trip, are you jumping into a 911? This is something I would love to hear some feedback on. Email us, podcast@motor1.com, or comment here on the video. drop a comment in Facebook or at YouTube, Motor One on YouTube. I'd like to get a little bit of feedback here. It's certainly something that I wouldn't think of right off the bat, even though I've followed some people that do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think, okay, well, you got to set up the tent. It's on the roof of your little sports car, so it shouldn't be too hard to get into, but it kind of negates the whole aspect of I've got my really fast car, but now I have to carry this tent on the roof, so I can't really have that much fun. I don't know. It's
you can
neat.
have plenty of fun at 80, Smith. Okay.
That's almost the speed limit in Michigan now. And well, that'll be a discussion for a different time. Tell us what you think, podcast@motor1.com. Email us. And guess what, guys? People do email us, and we have a couple that we want to take a look at here right now. Bruce, I suspect you have one pulled up ready to go that you're just dying to dive into.
Oh, we've got two really good emails this week. I do want to read, so I'm going to read them in the order that they came in. So Ted Adam Green, if you're still watching, we're getting to yours, but we got one just today from former guest, fantastic guest, Myron Vernus. And it turns out he's been listening to the show. He's currently staying in Greece. Lucky guy. And he not only, last week's show, we were talking about the Dodge Rampage, which is the new Brazilian truck that might be coming here, maybe, possibly, we don't know. But regardless, it's a pretty cool little compact truck. And we were also talking about some special edition Toyotas, including the GR86 Torino. And he had to email us and show off both his original Dodge Rampage and his original Toyota Corolla Torino. So I'm going to throw those photos up here real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I love how he pointed out in the email, you know, most people, when they're talking about the Torino, they're thinking the AE86, which obviously kind of made the car famous. No, his is the original. And I mean, if you've caught a couple of our previous podcasts, if you go back, look through the archives, Myron has been a guest with us here a couple of times, co-author on a great book of just awesome Japanese market cars.
Yep.
He's
Quiet
got that
Greatness. We'll throw that name out there. I believe.
Look at the cat.
Last time he was almost out of copies.
Hi, kitty.
So right now we're looking at the 2.2 Rampage.
We were looking at his Dodge Rampage, which I have to tell you is looking far better than the last time he posted photos of it, because right after purchasing this car, he wrecked it. And so I'm going to show you folks the way it looked after said crash. And you just saw how good it looked there.
Mm-hmm.
These are from January 1st.
Ooh,
and you can see he had quite the
that thing has been
incident
on its roof.
Yeah,
yes.
little beat up. And just to describe, if you're catching us on audio and you're like, what the heck is a Dodge Rampage? If you remember through, I think it started with 1979 or 1980, pretty much through the 80s, you had like the little Dodge Charger, the little front wheel drive Dodge Charger. They made the Shelby Charger. I'm trying to remember what the Plymouth version was.
Was it Challenger?
No. The Sapporo was the Mitsubishi. The Scamp? Was it the Plymouth Scamp?
No.
It wasn't.
It wasn't
the
the Duster, was it?
But it was just that little front wheel drive, model. Obviously with no back seat, it just had the two front seats and then a little pickup bed on the back. I think they're cool little vehicles today. I know a lot of people don't think they were cool then. They don't think. I want to point out,
we were talking about this before the show. He has the rare supercharged version, which, like,
he's got a direct connection.
Do you see out there
with a little supercharger on it?
One, which is just wild. So yeah, I was showing the wrecked one there. We will show it in its present glory, because
once again,
that's the way everyone should see it. But yeah,
and
recently restored, back to looking better than ever.
And it looks sharp. I'm not sure the cat on the left side, in about the center of the photo,
looks skeptical.
Agrees. He's
looks very skeptical.
You said let's go for a ride. You want me to get in this? But hey, I would get in that. I would get in that. I would take that to the nearest Radwood show I could find and just and just enjoy the love.
Absolutely. If you can vamp for me for just a second here, I will get the photo up of
See,
his Corolla.
I can do the vamping because our Australian friend would call this a ute.
Oh my.
He would.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not making a joke.
Yep.
Like,
No,
that's,
no.
that,
No,
I
you're
mean,
not.
As soon as you
like,
said Australian friend, it's
that-
like, oh,
is
damn it.
that
Now
the
I'm going to
most-
have to come up with another apology. But no, you were good. You were good.
Is
you were
that
correct.
the most recent ute to be sold in the United States? That car, the Rampage. Has there been another ute? Because
I would argue the Maverick is a ute.
I don't think that's wrong. I don't think that's a wrong take.
You could. I think, I believe the I don't know when they stopped the Rampage.
That's the thing.
but
I'm
I
not
believe
sure
the
when
El
they stopped
Camino.
Yeah,
I believe the El Camino stretched into like 86 or
88?
87.
Okay, maybe it was.
And
Okay.
what about the Brat too? I mean, Brat was definitely.
Brat didn't live that long. Brat was gone
No?
by then. I think it only
Okay.
lived to 83.
Yeah, I think it outlived the Brat.
But
Yeah, and then
But
you had
anyway.
the Rampage. But yeah,
also, here is Myron's original Corolla Torino. None
color.
of this AE86 pop-up headlight stuff.
Is it? I thought
This
it was Trueno.
Oh, is it? I've always said Torino.
It's TRUENO.
Yeah.
I always thought it was Truino.
Trueno, I can see. I thought I was hearing Torino from you guys.
Well, for God's sakes, don't take my advice on pronunciations. I mean, everybody that's ever listened to rambling about cars will tell you that's a bad idea. So I will just call it one hell of a cool Japanese
cool
car.
Yeah.
Very
and then
cool.
let me read the actual text of Myron's email now that we looked at his cool cars. Hi guys, enjoying the podcast as always. It's hard to listen live, especially now that I'm in Greece, but I always download them.
That is a humble brag.
It is really humble.
That's a humble brag. Now that I'm in Greece,
it's tough to watch it here.
Your Rampage and Sprinter Truino, up to you. Discussion from last week hit close to home. I have a 1983 Rampage 2.2 with the direct connection supercharger. Still cool, but cool looking and a handy little truck. Stellantis should 100% bring back the new one. As for the Sprinter, I have the original TE27 from 1973. The initial D fans are all about the later AE86, but the true JDM enthusiasts are all about the first generation. It's in the top 3 of most fun cars to drive.
I would believe that.
Mm-hmm.
It looks absolutely. It looks like a riot to drive.
Absolutely.
And of course, Myron has just one of the coolest eclectic car collections you're ever going to find. So,
Right.
Myron, thanks for sending that over and sharing that with us. We miss talking to you.
I think very slightly off topic that
Go for it.
that generation that was the 70s Corolla. Yeah, did he say the model year?
He did not. He said it was TE27. I can look. I believe that's mid to late 70s.
I
think it is. I think it is an absolute tragedy that 80s JDM cars have just dominated all the conversation around like JDM, and I feel like the 70s kind of gets pushed to the side a little bit because
you know what? I'm wrong. 72 to 74 for the TE27.
See,
So
that's
early 70s, not
early 70s Japanese cars are cool. Like they're really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it gets pushed to the side so much. I don't think it's certainly. I
just don't hear
in quite the same forefront as 80s. But I mean,
I think it's an issue of availability. They're just so
sure.
Not only did they sell fewer of them because Japanese cars in the 70s, even in the 80s, still had a stigma around them. But then you take that, and then only so many survive, and then only so many of those are in good enough condition to keep on the road. It just kind of.
I just think of I want to say it was a Corolla that they had in that 70s show. It was like an orange Corolla wagon. That was just so cool. Maybe I'm making that up.
I mean, I see a fair amount of love, obviously, for the 240 and the 280. I see it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, everybody jumps onto the super bandwagon, but I see a fair amount of love for like the late 70s Celicas, which I just adore.
Maybe that's I'm just projecting from my place in the heart of American vehicles.
No, I think too. Also, there are more interesting models to talk about in the 80s.
That's fair. Yeah.
Maybe
at least for stuff that was available in the United States.
This is just me advocating for find cool 70s Japanese cars, people, and buy them and fix them and show them off.
Yeah, for sure.
Agreed. Yeah.
I'm
nothing that we were
1000%
nothing
behind
being
that.
sold here was worth a damn at the time.
Well, Group FBC agrees with you. Damn right, Brandon.
And then we also received an email from frequent commenter, frequent watcher, Ted Adam Green. Ted, you sent a very long email, and I appreciate that. But just for brevity's sake, I am going to kind of split it down to the most necessary parts just to kind of get through things. And so Ted starts, dealer markups. I'm messing up already. Dealer markups. I hate them, but sometimes they are worth it. Dealer markup and markdown are based off the idea that the MSRP is just that. It is a suggested price. Not many complain when they pay less for a vehicle, but many people complain when they pay more for a vehicle. Some will cite greater depreciation as though the future value is based on MSRP, but if a car is known to have a solid, regularly over or under MSRP, then depreciation is generally not greatly affected unless someone over or underpays for those vehicles. If you pay under the deviation, then good for you. If you pay over the deviation, then buyer beware. And then I'm going to scroll down a little bit. If we look back to cool cars from the 80s and 90s, I think we would say if we look back to cool cars from the 80s and 90s, I think we would all agree that we don't like the markups on some of them, but they would have been totally worth it. Certain vehicles like the Mark IV Supra, the NSX, FD Generation RX-7, Buick GNX, convertible Mustang Cobras, etc., all of them would have been worth pay to play at that time. I don't know anyone who would look down on an enthusiast who said they paid over the MSRP to get one of those classics as a new car and then got to enjoy them back in the day. Flippers be danged. I like that. So yeah, what do we think? Is there a time when markups are appropriate, which is kind of what Ted is arguing here? And that's a really interesting topic because I've never thought about it that way.
I mean, thanks, Ted, for sending that in. It is a really interesting way to look at the subject because, I mean, adjusted dealer markup is like one of the biggest trigger phrases for just about anybody. You don't have to be an enthusiast to hear dealer markup and just be like, oh, just ready to fight Godzilla. But it's supply and demand, right? I mean, I can sit here and I can take my glorious Hot Wheels Chevrolet Citation X11. Look at that thing straight out of 1982 or 1983. And I can say, man, I'm selling this Hot Wheels car for 50 grand because it's in great shape. You're not going to find it anywhere. And that might anger some people. And if somebody's like, I really want that and they pay for it, bravo to me, right? I mean, can you be angry if you sell something that somebody wants at a price they're willing to pay?
It's a really fair question, and it's a really complicated question because the thing is, you're absolutely right that if there is someone out there that is willing to pay you $50,000 for a Hot Wheels car, and it is a buyer and a seller coming together to agree on a price, then it's hard to argue that that is an unfair system. On the other hand, there is, I think what comes up a lot when we see these things is a certain like egalitarian mindset where it feels like these cars should be available to as many people as possible. And the fact that dealers are charging premiums for them are automatically taking people out of that pool. And that's theoretically it feels like an unfair situation because it feels like, oh, only the wealthy people, only people with more money are getting to benefit from the vehicles that are out there. So, in some cases, the enthusiast vehicles, I should say. Go ahead, Brandon.
A couple of things. I think the reference to like cars back in the day being marked up is fair. I think that behavior by dealers at the time would have been greeted just as severely if there were something like the internet is today, where people can coordinate and say, this is not acceptable. Look at what this dealer is doing. As for the argument that it's just supply and demand, the vehicles that are being marked up are generally the ones that are they're never marked down.
Yeah.
So right away, like those vehicles will go their entire life cycle selling at or above MSRP. And I just don't agree with it fundamentally. These are vehicles that these are the most exciting, most dynamic, most enthusiast focused vehicles on the market. And who are the dealers to say that, not everyone has a chance at getting these? I think they are well within their rights to do it. I think automakers have come out and said that these are only recommended prices and that the dealers are able to set their own prices.
In some cases, we've seen some
cases,
automakers try to push back. Dodge tried to push back with, some of the Red Eye and Hellcat and stuff like that models.
I think if you look at the lengths that some automakers are going to prevent markups on popular models, in the general reputation of auto dealers, which is pretty poor across the board.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a consumer attitude that these sort of markups are not acceptable and that they should not be allowed to happen. I would love to see, I don't think cars should be sold for less than what the MSRP says. I think that the automaker is setting a price, and that's the price that the person should pay. We are not, this is not a Snickers bar. This is not someone else deciding, I'm going to charge $225 for my Snickers bar while someone else is charging $175. This is a huge investment, and there needs to be a degree of uniformity and reliability in the pricing. And you're right. I cannot have both. But this is just my own personal view.
No, exactly.
It does not represent Motor One or anyone else. It's just
we all have our personal feelings.
Yeah. I really struggle when I see a vehicle that people have been waiting for, and there might not have been like a robust pre-order system, and they finally find one, and a dealer's charging $25,000 above MSRP. I think that's completely unacceptable. At the same time, I don't think people should be like leaping on these vehicles that are eventually going to be mass produced. The people that spent $15,000 over MSRP on a Supra a few years ago are just, no, you're just bad. Don't do that.
Well, let me toss another factor.
Adam Green is listening, and so he wanted to add this point. My point is not in the defense of dealers, but the enthusiasts who pay to play. Since he sent the email, I thought it was worth
fair point. But I remember people paying a lot of money over MSRP to get a PT Cruiser when they first came out. And that's not a very enthusiastic vehicle, but it was just something that was cool that everybody wanted. And here's where I'm going to throw in something a little different to consider. How often do we see automakers launch a new vehicle and then make big claims? Hey, this vehicle is going to start under $20,000, under $30,000, under $50,000. And then it gets people excited. Holy crap, I can afford that. That looks amazing. And then they get excited to go buy one. Well, they find that everybody and their brother says the same thing. I can afford that. The dealer says, well, gosh, the manufacturer says it should start at this, but because everybody wants one, now it's going to start here.
Well, it's an interesting question too in today's world where there's supply chain issues and things like that. And yes, they did mark up PT.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, I was there at the time. They did.
Yeah, I remember. I remember it.
Yeah, that happened.
People were legit crazy for that car.
Oh my god, they were so popular at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely a case of I think everybody is in their right to do what they're doing. I think automakers are within their rights to change the prices to what they see fit, to what makes them profitable. I think dealers are within their rights to sell a car at whatever price a person is willing to afford. Do I think either of those things are good or right, or from an enthusiast perspective acceptable? Not really, but that's the world we live in. I mean, it's I think back, I don't know who said it, but the best deals are the ones where everyone feels like they got screwed, or the fairest deals. So
well, that's why I haven't bought a new car in never. I've always bought used cars just because I can never stomach the depreciation as soon as you drive it off the lot. And I have attempted to go new cars in the past. my dealership experience has always just been miserable. And yeah, you know what? I don't want to drive that train. And maybe I kind of
Civic Si, you were like so close to pulling a trigger on and you couldn't.
Oh my God. I was ready. Now that was a lease, but I was like, I'll come over right now with a $3,000 deposit, do everything down and do this up. There was a good lease deal for the Civic Si. I was ready to just dump the Mustang. Let's get in the new Civic Si. And I was talking to my local dealer and they were like, oh, well, we don't have any in stock, but we've got a regular Civic. And it would have actually been more with the deal they had going, it would have been more for the regular Civic. It's like, no, I don't want a regular Civic. He's like, yeah, I'm seeing these lease deals. We don't have anything in stock. I'm like, okay, can you get something? I know dealers do all kinds of dealer trades. I am ready to go right now. My credit's awesome. I've got all of this cash. Let's go.
Well, and they were like, say though,
and they were like, well, you know, no, we just don't have anything. But do you want to look at a CRV? No, just like, here's what I want. I have got ready to go. And it was just
let me go slightly counter to you here. I know I did this, and Brandon, I know your wife bought a Bronco Sport. And I know at least for my Outback, and Brandon, I'm 99% sure also for your Bronco Sport, I had to wait to take delivery. I waited. Yeah. We waited like 2 months. It was about 8 weeks, 10 weeks, something like that.
We ordered in January and took delivery in mid-April.
Okay. So that's even longer than me. So yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Well, the other factor there is patience. If the market's hot,
I will say, I think everyone should be doing custom orders. I think that is, if you have the time, and you should always have the time, because no one should go out and buy a car on a whim. You should research this. You should consider the options. You should test drive it, and then you should place an order and get exactly what you want. This would not be a problem. I'll add to that is dealerships have, generally speaking, an exceptionally poor reputation, and this is the kind of behavior that does not help. That is when they mark things up. Yep. Whether people are willing to pay it or not, just don't do it.
And Jonathan Brown, thanks for the comment here, listening. Dealers will pay the price when the market comes back to reality. Many of us will never do business with those same dealers when they no longer have supply issues. These are just cars and nothing more. I've been seeing that a lot in different forums, different things online. Good email, Ted. Thanks for sending that in. Great discussion to everybody here. Great discussion with all the ramblers out there. This is rambling. This is rambling about cars at its best.
Yeah. But Brandon, you know, part of the reason we had you on is that we wanted to have a little reminiscing with you, and we don't have a ton of time left. But we got 10 minutes or so, or however much time you've got, and
we got some time to give Mr. Turkus an open mic, because you've been with Motor One for a long time.
And Motor One.
And I know you've got some, because you've traveled, man. You've gone. I mean, you're talking. Yeah, I was in Napa Auto Parts, and then I was in Napa, California. But you've been all over the world. You've driven some amazing cars. Tell us a little bit about some of your memorable stuff, man.
Yeah. I mean, I've been so extremely fortunate in the 5+ years that I've been here. I've been to South Korea twice. I've been to Australia. I've been to, I think, every country in Western Europe, west of the Iron Curtain, or the former Iron Curtain. I've been to Romania, Greece, you name it. I've been to the Goodwood Festival of Speed. I've done some truly incredible things. And yeah, it's been a privilege. Yes, good riddance, as that song title goes. Yeah, no, it's been really cool. I've done some things and met some people that I never even dreamed of. You know, that 2 days ago I was driving a $500,000 Rolls Royce in a manner that is not befitting of a Rolls Royce on a twisting road in wine country. And it was a beautiful day, and I had the windows down, and I had some good music on, and you know, it was a great experience. And people that I talk to, my friends and everything like that, they think that this job, we do these amazing things, and that's all they are. But like there have been I've made some memories doing this that are going to be with me for forever. I mean, I remember I had, to bring us back to Greece, I was on the Audi RS3 drive in October of 2021. Yeah, October of 2021. And this was still during the time of COVID. And we had, so everybody had their own cars. We generally shared cars when we would go on drive programs until COVID. And then we started getting our own. And they're like, we were going to a racetrack, and they said, well, your time slot isn't until after lunch. So if you want to go out, there's like a 2-hour drive route. And so they gave me it was a lime green RS3 that I drove along the Greek coast by myself on a 70-degree day for 2 hours on twisting roads. And there was not another soul out there. And, the scenery was fantastic. And I mean, just everything about it was, it was so memorable. And it made for a really great story about the car. I'm trying to think of that. I've got one pulled up. I'll shoot you the link, Bruce, if you want to share it. This is probably my favorite story I ever wrote when I was here. We received an invite from Subaru, and Subaru they have this track record of doing some really wild and crazy stuff with a Pro Drive built WRX STI. And one of the things was that they wanted to do a time attack run in Romania along the Transfiguration Highway. And if you remember your Top Gear, there was an episode where they called it the best driving road in the world. And what they didn't say in the show is just quite how long it is. It's 52 miles. It goes up over a mountain, through tunnels, through forest, the whole 9 yards, ends at a giant dam. And Subaru got the entire course closed off, completely closed off. There were spectators lining the road, and they brought over some media and some WRX STIs, and they let us go out and they let us chase the time attack car on this closed road. And so we set off from the start point after the rally car driven by Mark Higgins blasted past us. And we had the way led for us by a local rally driver. It was like the president of the Romanian Rally Association. And so we're just blasting down this road as he's calling out pace notes to us, a closed road with like people lining the sides of it, coming around like through villages and stuff like that, and carrying some incredible speed. And it was one of those things like you just looked at it like, what am I even doing? Why is this my life? And then the next day I got a terrible case of food poisoning and was vomiting in a dirt parking lot. So
and you ended up looking like the Rolls Royce we saw earlier.
Yeah, exactly. I was the color of that Rolls Royce. And then to top it all off, we finished that, and then we got on a plane and we flew to England for the Goodwood Festival of Speed. It's just like, what even is this? It is. This job is such a tremendous privilege. And yeah, I can't really explain beyond that, like what it's meant to do it. And then you factor in like the smaller things. Like I've driven a new car every week I've been working for Motor One for 5 years. I've been doing this for 13 years, driving a new car every week. And I mean, that in itself, and
we should say before that, you delivered cars to, automotive press. You were even driving new stuff before that.
Yeah. I mean, I was part of the launch of the first wave of press cars for the original Audi R8. The V10 TDI Volkswagen Tiguan. We had a wild, heavily modified Suzuki SX4 SX4 that I drove. I mean, there was some weird stuff, and it's been a truly bizarre ride. And yeah, it's been a privilege, and I gotta pay tribute to our dear leader Seth, who was the one that hired me for my first writing gig. So it's really all his fault that I've been here and I've been doing this. So yeah, I thank you guys for having me on. It's been, Yeah, it's been something else.
Oh, it goes without saying that we're thrilled to have you here and listen to some of your stories. I remember you talking about this Subaru drive quite a while after the fact even. And I was a little jealous. I'm not going to lie. I also know that there is a hell of a lot of work that goes that comes along with this type of position. I mean, if I'm honest, I rather enjoy being on the news side because you guys are traveling almost on a weekly basis sometimes.
I did the
There's a
math.
lot of time away from home. There's for every awesome scenic drive and every amazing car you're enjoying, you're sitting somewhere in a cramped ass airplane seat trying to write 600 words with obnoxious person X sitting next to you trying to talk to you. Oh, hey, what is it you're working on there?
I had a chatty one on this last one.
So I mean, it's an amazing gig, but it takes a special kind of person to do it, is what I'm saying.
I did the math about a couple months into COVID, because that's the longest I've gone in my career without traveling was 15 months. I did some math in 2019. I was on a plane on average. I was on a flight every 4 days. So yeah, I mean, it is the lifestyle takes its toll on you. It's really hard. It sounds like a vacation, but it's a tremendous amount of hard work, but it has been the highest honor to do it. And yeah.
Well, and we should point out that you're not dead.
Right.
No, you guys are just gonna think I'm
dead to us.
Yeah, just gonna be dead.
If you're ever in the Motor One chat, going forward, and you see my name brought up, it'll be followed by RIP. Like that's just.
I mean, there'll be more to come in the world for Mr. Turkus. I would like to just ask you about one drive in particular that I was really impressed with. I mean, you wrote a great article, but you had some, I think, some really delectable insight into something that people are thinking about, but aren't really understanding just yet. And that was when you drove the Mercedes-Benz Vision EQ XX. Can you tell me just a little bit more about that experience and tell our ramblers a little bit more about that experience? Because the way you wrote it, the way you framed it, it gave me a different perspective on EVs, and I think it can do the same for a lot of other people out there.
Yeah, forgive the barking dog. Scooter, be quiet. Jeez.
Scooters is like EQXX. Woof woof. Hell yes, man.
Yeah. So the Vision EQXX is, oh my god, dog, just chill. It was a door. So this was a fully functional concept vehicle that Mercedes-Benz developed. It is a long-range EV. They've done a couple of real-world tests with it. Can you not?
Oh my god, he listened. What?
Yeah. We have a good relationship.
Yep.
So
EQXX.
It's a long range, fully functional, all electric EV that with an extreme focus on aerodynamics and lightweight construction. Has air cooled batteries instead of liquid cooled. The coefficient of drag is like 0.19 or 0.2. It's something insane. I don't think there's a production vehicle that quite matches it. It's very small. It's shaped like a teardrop, and it will go over 1,000 or over 600 miles, almost 700 miles on a single charge. And it is, thank you, Jonathan. It is basically, it's Mercedes exploration of what the future of electric vehicles needs to be. In driving it, you can't drive EVs the same way that you drive conventional gas powered cars if you want to get the most range out of them. One of the fun things they did was they asked us, they evaluated our driving to see who was the most efficient. And we were on a little test route at the Mercedes Proving Grounds in Immending in Germany. And yeah, it was just, it drives like any other EV, but it's so aerodynamic that when you let off the gas or let off the accelerator to coast, you can actually feel it start to gain speed because it just cuts through the air that efficiently. And it really changed my perspective on driving EVs and how you use regen and all the things like that. And if people want to get the most out of their EVs, like they need to learn to drive this way. And so yeah, it was super eye-opening. I think that is still the most expensive car I've ever driven. They didn't tell us the exact price, but it was strongly hinted to me that it was in the $10 to $11 million range.
Well, I mean, special concept. I can certainly believe it. And what really stood out to me was, I mean, you had a chance to get some serious seat time behind the wheel, and you were talking a bit about the performance. And it's like, I think it was like a single motor driving the rear wheels, 200 and some horsepower. Which
it's not a fast car. It's not a fast car at all. It's very light and it's very slippery.
But I mean, it's not a slow car either. It's still, I mean, it's something that had extraordinarily impressive range that still was a joy to drive. And we've gotten so jaded with 700, 800, 900 horsepower cars. To have something like this right now, getting that kind of range, offering that kind of space with performance that's not a dud. And I think, as you said in the article, it's like, this shows we're just now scratching the surface. And that's what was eye-opening to me. And it's like, that's probably the most astute observation that I think people need to hear.
Yeah.
Electric cars have been around for a little while now, but we're still just scratching the surface.
It's funny, I was on that Rolls-Royce Spectre drive earlier this week. First ever all electric Rolls-Royce. They were talking about how Charles Rolls originally preferred. He was an electrical engineer. He wasn't a mechanical engineer, and he preferred EVs. And they had a lot of the shortcomings that they still have today, and that's why they didn't go forward with them. But in terms of like just scratching the surface, I mean, I have this discussion. A lot of my friends. One of the things is, if you do this job and people find out that you do this job, they immediately want to talk cars with you.
Yep.
And so a lot of them are like, EVs, I just don't buy it. And there's this expectation on their part that the market is stagnant and that the shortcomings of EVs are always going to persist. And that really couldn't be further from the truth. I don't think there's a single element of the market that's transforming the way that EVs are. We're eventually going to crack solid state drives and extremely fast charging, ultra long range batteries, and it's just going to get better and better and better. And I think that, you look at the Vision EQXX and what it brings to the table, and that it is a test bed for a lot of those things.
Well, I mean, it was a fantastic article. I am eternally grateful that you had that opportunity, and even more so that you shared it so eloquently and so thoughtfully and so thoroughly with the rest of us. Because that changed my perspective quite a bit, and it snapped me back to reality. And it's like, God, this is just the beginning. So now when I hear somebody bitch about, the Ford F-150 Lightning loses half of its range when you're towing something. Oh, you mean like your Dodge Cummins loses half of its MPGs when it's towing something? Oh, they don't work in winter. Oh, you mean like you have to plug in your Power Stroke diesel to make sure it's the block is warmed up in the morning? I mean, it's just
it's even simpler. It's even simpler than that. There's the talk like, well, it only goes 300 miles for a charge, and it's like, okay, tell me how many times per year you drive 300 miles in a single go. And if the answer is not in the double digits, then you don't have an argument. If it is in the double digits, guess what? You're not an EV customer. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not wearing a scarlet letter because your lifestyle dictates that this thing doesn't work for you in the present moment. 80% of the charging that EV customers do is at home. So the range argument kind of goes out the window. The towing argument kind of goes out the window. These are what's the word I'm looking for? These are corner cases or edge cases. So yeah, I mean, it's so good to be part of the business right now because it changes so frequently. And it's there's a lot of stuff happening, and there's going to be continue to be a lot of things happening with EVs, and it's fun to watch.
The last 10 years, man, and it's just beginning. It's an exciting time. Brandon, we're gonna miss you, buddy. Thank you much for being here on Rambling, and you won't be dead to you'll be kind of dead to us. But when we come back saying, hey, can you be a guest on the show because you're still awesome? I hope you say yes. Just say
we'll see. Depends on the subject matter.
Okay.
Gotcha. Could be can't say more than that.
Fair enough. No, but yeah, Brandon, you and I worked together at Autoblog before here at Motor One. You and I worked together for a while.
Started at the same time, about almost
roughly
10 years
about
ago,
6
about
months.
10 years ago, like next week. Or
oh, was it? Is it really?
July 13th, 2013 was my start date at Autoblog.
And I think you jumped into Winding Road, I think, not long after I might have still been doing a little bit of freelance stuff on the side.
February 20-something 2010. I have a memory for these things. I started at Motor One May 14th, 2018.
Wow, you do have a good memory for this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I remember important things occasionally.
Okay. Well, that memory will help you in the next place you end up.
We'll see.
I'm sure. But no, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Is there anything, so I know you're in kind of a transitionary period. Is there anything you want to plug or promote right now?
Rolls Royce going up Monday?
Yeah,
Rolls Royce going up Monday.
We have, in fact, I'll tell you about some of them. We have some super exciting first drives coming up in the next few weeks. Mm-hmm. And I can share these because the dates of the first drives aren't under embargo. Tonight at midnight, we have the first drive of the 2024 Jeep Wrangler going up. Next week's cool. Next week, so Rolls-Royce Spectre goes up on July 3rd at 7:00, and then 24 hours later, you're going to be able to read about Jeff Perez's first drive of the Aston Martin DB12. He drove that in Monaco.
That's
so like he got like the full he got the full millionaire experience, which is super exciting. We're gonna have first drives of the Lotus Electra, the Mercedes AMG EQE SUV, Mercedes-Benz E-Class. Like these are all coming up. The new Mustang, these are all coming up in the next month or so. So there's some really exciting stuff going on that you are absolutely going to want to read, whether I'm still here or not. So please go to Motor One and read all of those things.
Well, very good. Well, I appreciate you being with us. The automotive journalism, automotive press world, there is a lot of us, but it also feels like a tight family, especially once you stay there, for a few years, like you end up knowing everybody. So it would not shock me at all whether you end up back on the show again, or you and I end up working someplace together again, or who knows what. So,
wherever you're at out there, Ramblers, whether you're listening live, whether you're getting us on the audio, now is your time to raise a glass, as I'm doing right here. Best of luck, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you. It's water, but thank you.
We'll see you.
Right.
Mine isn't.
You cut me off at my big finish. I just wanted to say this is not goodbye. This is see you later.
Yes.
Sorry, Bruce. I thought you were getting ready for the good afternoon, good evening.
No,
we're not quite in sync tonight.
That's on. I was talking over you tonight.
That's on me. I'm still smelling natural gas in this house. So.
That's right.
You should really get that checked out.
Not even
you should really get that checked out. Please don't light any candles.
Yeah. But anyway, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. We appreciate all of our listeners, and what we especially appreciate every week is that you decide to spend your time with us. There are 1,001 things you could be doing, but instead you decided to listen to us. You've decided to tune in to watch us. Just whatever it is, that feels good. That feels special to me. It makes me feel good to know that I can entertain you folks, and that and Smith and I both, and Brandon, that we have a voice that you guys appreciate and respect, and that you want to hear us week after week. And I love it. And it's why we do this show every single week. So with that, I bid everyone adieu, good night, and we will be back next week.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you.
I won't be back next week, but
Brandon won't be back next week.